Has it been hard having so many different caretakers?
Yeah, it's been hard because I don't want to change. So much change.
And how many different caretakers have you had? What do you think?
Probably around 40. And as long as I've lived here, probably 40.
You're probably wondering what a caretaker is and why this young man has had so many of them. Kody Bryce is just your typical teenager, except that he lives every day with autism spectrum disorder. Autism is a developmental disorder that typically appears by age 3. It affects the way that the brain processes and receives information.
By the time Kody was 2, we knew there was a problem. We just didn't know what the problem was. By 2.5, I was starting to look for help, but there was no early child development until 3. And so at that time I lived in Leavenworth County, so I went to early childhood development and we started testing. Kody was not diagnosed with autism until he was 8. So it was because he's very high functioning.
Kim, a single mom, lives with Kody in a small apartment in South Lawrence. The financial cost of raising a child with autism spectrum disorder can often become a heavy burden for the parents. Fortunately, Kody qualifies for the developmental disability waiver, which I learned more about at Trinity, an in-home care staffing agency in Lawrence, Kansas.
So under Medicaid, there's an HCBS program, and that's what Kody's on. So Medicaid, little program called HCBS, well, it's not little, it's a huge chunk of the state's budget, but that stands for Home Community-Based Services. That's the idea of keeping people in the community as long as possible. So under that program, there's lots of different waivers. One of those waivers is the DD waiver.
It's this waiver that provides thousands of families across the state of Kansas with caretakers. I caught up with Kody and his caretaker Corey on a fishing trip to Mary's Lake. It was cold and windy, but Kody didn't seem to mind.
Just essentially, I picked Kody up from school around 3, early release on Wednesday, so have to be there a little earlier on Wednesdays, and then some days he has tutoring, so some days I go into the classroom with him and just kind of hang out and help if he needs help. And most of the time, Kody's pretty good, so he doesn't need a ton of help. He just needs someone to be around. So then we drive home, take him to his place, and there's just kind of a list of chores his mom wants him to get done. And so he kind of hang out with him and make sure he's getting those chores done. And prior to that, some days we have a deal where him and I we're working out because he's trying to do the Olympic, Special Olympic weightlifting stuff. So Mondays and Fridays we usually do that, and then other days it's kind of whatever Kody really feels like doing. So if he wants to hang out at home, I just hang out with him, and if he wants to go get something done, I go help him get something done. If he needs to go apply for a job, I help him go get a job, or whatever really he's feeling like or wants to do. And if his mom has something for me to do, I usually try to help out as best I can in those arenas.
For Kim, it has been nice to finally find a caregiver that shares Kody's interest. She has seen so much progress made just in the few short months that Corey has been working with Kody.
It's a big relief. It really is. Kody's in a much better mood, and it makes a big difference for me to be able to come home from work and not have to deal with the stress of Kody being in when Kody's in a foul mood because he's been frustrated with a caregiver and butting heads with a caregiver for 2 or 3 hours. It makes it really stressful for me to come home and be fighting with him, or coming home and finding that the chores that he has are not done, because then that means I come home and have to get on him about getting the chores done that he did not do with the caregiver. It's really nice to have those things done.
But Corey may not be able to stay for the summer, and Kim is worried that she may have to start the whole process all over again for the 41st time.
Oh, I'm really anxious. I'm really, really worried. Originally, I thought Corey was going to stay, and Corey is uncertain now. He's not really sure if he's going to be able to work the summer. I had 2 caregivers last summer. It was not a good summer. Things were not done. Things were not, it was just, the last 2 summers have been very bad. If Kody's not kept on track, if he doesn't have a regular schedule, then he's out of whack. And when he's out of whack, then he has horrible days. And it just makes life really rough for us. And, working full time and then coming home and dealing with, him being out of sorts. And then, so me having to go through a process that takes, because it took me probably 6 weeks to find Corey. So I've given Corey a deadline. I told him I have to know by April 1st if he's going to work the summer. And then, of course, you don't know. You've got to go through the training process if you find somebody. And getting them used to Kody and getting them into the routine and training them all over again. And it's the whole process all over again.
But to Kim, it's worth it, because Kody's her son, and she's his mom.
Because first and foremost, I'm Kody's mom. So I take care of him first.